Good afternoon, and thank you for taking the opportunity at CAL FIRE's aviation facility to once again kick off fire season 2016. For those that haven't been here before, and I'm sure many and most have, but this is CAL FIRE's aviation facility. All of our aircraft are maintained and supported out of this facility in support of our statewide operation. We have a partnership here with DynCorp and LSI. In, again, cooperation with CAL FIRE that keeps our aircraft fully maintained and flying, and right now, basically throughout the year. With the year-round fire season conditions we've been experiencing, it is critical that these aircraft are kept on the front line all the time. And the maintenance program here is top-notch. We have, for 5 years in a row now, received a Diamond Award from the FAA for the maintenance program that we have. So we're very proud of it under the direction here of Chief Bill Payne and our DynCorp partner, Jeff Cavara. The partnership here is unprecedented in the program. So with that, and without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Mark Ghilarducci, the Director of the Governor's Office of Emergency Services.
Thanks, Director Pemlott. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Let me start off by saying of what we all kind of know, that California is now entering into what we see as a 5th year of drought. And several state agencies and local agencies and even the public have been working very hard in efforts to mitigate the impacts of the last 4 years of drought to the communities throughout California. And we've seen other kind of cascading impacts, like, for example, tree mortality. We've got considerable amount of trees that have now died as a result of the drought. More than 29 million trees within our forests and in our foothill communities that we are dealing with. These are all cases that exasperate the fire conditions and make a very big concern for us as we enter into this new fire season. So it's very important that people living in regions prone to wildfire throughout California should recognize the risks that are around your residents. Know what's the risks that are in your community. Prepare for, clear your property so that firefighters, should a fire occur, have all of the ability to save your home and be able to extinguish the fire prior to the fire hitting. You don't want to wait until it's too late. Last year, we were together with you all. We talked about the devastating concern for wildfire, and it became true. Last year, we saw in California devastating fires that ranked among the worst in our state's history. The Valley Fire in Lake County burned more than 76,000 acres, destroyed over 1,900 structures, and unfortunately took 4 lives. It was recorded as California's 3rd most devastating wildfire. The Butte Fire in Calaveras County burned more than 70,000 acres, destroyed over 800 structures, and unfortunately took 2 lives. It was recorded as California's 7th worst wildfire in our state's history. While these impacts are felt intensely by individuals, the local area, and the state, the fire response efforts demonstrated our capacity to work together during these times of crisis. We have a tremendous system in California. The Governor's Office of Emergency Services, has a responsibility for coordinating the state's fire and rescue mutual aid system with our local, state, and federal partners, many of which you'll hear from today. It's a model system in the nation and across the world. But we cannot do this by ourselves. This is not just a government function. This is a public, private, non-governmental. It's the citizens of California. It's what you do now to prepare yourself, to have a plan, to clear your property, to be fire aware. I urge all Californians to consider their specific wildfire risk to their communities and their home and their work, where they work. And visit www.readyforwildfire.org. Make an emergency plan today. Be prepared for this upcoming fire season. It will occur. Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce the Adjutant General of California National Guard, General David Baldwin.
Thanks, Director Ghilarducci. Though the National Guard of California is deployed globally, responding to emergencies here in the homeland remains job one for us. We remain prepared at the call. If at the call of the governor, we have to come in to support our interagency partners during this wildfire season. We're prepared to deploy a full spectrum of military capability, from space-based systems through high-flying reconnaissance aircraft to helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft capable of fighting fires, to boots on the ground of soldiers and airmen that are joining the fire lines along professional firefighters and our other interagency partners. We look forward to supporting this effort as we have for many years, as again, this is our most important task in the National Guard, is to respond to save lives and property here in the homeland. And I'll be followed by Gene Wade Evans from the United States Forest Service.
Thank you, General. Thank you all for being here today. It's a really important kickoff to a really important week, Wildfire Awareness Week. I can't think of anything more pertinent to Californians right now. Forest Service stands ready. The U.S. Forest Service stands ready to be prepared with over 5,000 firefighters ready to respond to wildfires in this state, just in this state of California. We've got over 473 fire engines like you see here today. We have over 47 hotshot crews, and we can draw on crews from all over the United States, and we do when we need to. And I recollect last year we did that, especially with planes. So we'll continue to work closely with our partners on the needs of Californians. We've been bringing people on earlier because even though the season's starting off a little later, we know we need to be ready, and we are. Even this last month, we've been working with our partners in CAL FIRE for some of these lower elevation fires. You're going to hear kind of a theme here. We work together all across the state, whether it be federal, state, local, municipalities. We're working together to deal with wildfires wherever they happen in the state. And after 4 years, and 5th year coming on of drought, we've got quite a situation in the state with dead trees. We've got over 40 million, 29 million died just this last year alone. And we're seeing more. We saw some driving up here today along the highway that I hadn't seen just a couple months ago. So that's a real threat, a real problem, a real issue to deal with in this state. In that vein, we've been working with our partners in OES and CAL FIRE to respond to the high hazard areas in the state around the Sequoia, the Sierra, the El Dorado National Forest. To date, as of probably Friday, have felled over 62,000 trees that affect roads in evacuation routes, communication sites, campgrounds, as well as near communities that are adjacent to the National Forest. So we've been working hard on all the tree mortality issues, all those millions of dead trees in the state, in preparation for just making it a little safer out there for everybody, and to mitigate the effects of fire when and where it comes. So we had a little snow this year. Wow. That was a big treat for us in the Sierras. And what that it did is allow us to do a little prescribed fire. So while we prepare for wildfire season, and we're prepared with a heavy response, initial response, we work all year on this problem. And we've been putting prescribed fire on the ground, trying to mitigate the effects of fire when it does show up. And we've been working with a lot of partners on that. And to date, over 9,000 acres have been treated with prescribed fire. We've also been working on thinning and chipping and just general forest management out there. We need all of Californians' help. Really, this is not just a job for the fire agencies, this is a job for everyone that lives in the state. The wildfire problem is everybody's problem, especially when it shows up near you. And we would ask every Californian to take stock of where they are, and you're going to hear this message probably more than twice. Do defensible space. Know what to do when the fire comes to you. Know where to go. Know your evacuation route. We're doing a lot of treatment around evacuation routes so that people are not impeded when the fire comes. So this is a great week, a great time to think about what's in front of us, and together I think we can have the right kind of response and really take care of each other. Thank you.
Good afternoon again. Ken Pimlott, Chief Director of CAL FIRE. It seems like we were just here talking about 2015 fire season, and now we're already back around to 2016. As a matter of fact, we're still in recovery efforts for the Valley and the Butte fires as those closed out or were contained late last fall. The truth is, California doesn't know boundaries on fire season. It's all year. It's just a matter of where and when throughout the state. You're going to hear a lot and continue to hear a lot about the partnerships with everybody that's standing behind me. It takes all of these individuals, their agencies, and many, many more to respond to and combat the threats that we face in California from the kinds of year-round fire season conditions that we have. On top of that, as you've heard, over 4 years of drought. And we certainly don't want anyone to be lulled into the fact of thinking that because we have had snowpack and precipitation that conditions are significantly different than they have been. Number one, it's California. And historically, our Mediterranean climate leads to conditions all over the state conducive to extreme and devastating wildfires. On top of all this, you've heard tree mortality referred to several times. In October of 2015, Governor Brown declared a state of emergency as a result of over 29 million trees so far killed as a result of epidemic levels of insect-induced tree mortality as a direct result of drought and extremely parched conditions. As part of that, the state is leading a task force of over 100 different organizations, agencies at the state, local, and federal level to look at a variety of issues to address the problem. There is certainly no way that we're going to remove 29 million dead trees, and certainly no rain, no matter how much it rains, is going to bring the dead trees back to life. But what we can do is work closely with our local government partners, prioritize those immediate threats to life, safety, life hazard, power lines, access roads, falling hazards around homes and transportation corridors, and leverage every opportunity from Caltrans, local public works, the utility companies, CAL FIRE, funding from the Office of Emergency Services and many others to leverage as much work as we can in these high priority areas. The challenge is, and you're going to hear it many, many times, you hear it from us every year, it's that 100 feet of defensible space, and that's absolutely key across the state. As we say every year, the homeowners have a responsibility to clear that area around their home so the firefighters have a fighting chance and the homeowners have a chance to leave the area safely if they need to during a fire. Unfortunately, many homeowners have 30, 40, or more dead trees on their property. We recognize that's a challenge to have those very expensive technical trees removed from their property. Many, many technical experts from CAL FIRE to other local specialists are out there working with homeowners and property owners in many of these affected communities to provide technical advice on which are the highest priority trees to get the biggest bang for the buck in your defensible space. We recognize that. But as I said, we will never be able to remove the millions of dead trees that are out there. So if ever, this is the key year to pay very close attention to ready, set, go. Obviously, the ready is the defensible space. The set is that plan. Prepare your evacuation plan, all your valuables, everything you're going to take with you, have that set. This year, again, it's key, it's the go. Need to be prepared to leave and leave immediately in a safe manner. Have 2 escape routes identified from your community. Remember, there are many communities, particularly in Mariposa, Fresno, Tuolumne counties, that have 80 or more % of the trees in many of these areas dead. Very much a fire hazard. Leave early, plan for what your escape route is going to be from these communities so that we can help protect everybody who lives in these communities. We're also preparing with the response. Governor Brown continues to support a very aggressive effort to preparing for the conditions that we're facing. Just as we've done in the last several years, CAL FIRE has brought on additional firefighters. We've brought them on early. In addition to the aircraft you see behind me, we've brought on additional large air tankers, or we will at the peak of fire season, as well as some additional helicopters when the timing is warranted. So we are prepared to bring the fight to the fire. Now we need homeowners to bring the fight ahead of the fire and prepare your homes. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to California Natural Resources Secretary John Laird.
Thank you, Chief. Every fire year is different. This year, Californians are tempted to think that because there was rain and snow, that things are going to be different and we're going to be better off. But in fact, El Nino was not really realized south of Fresno in California. There are still tens of millions of dead trees that represent a very real fire hazard. And in places where in fact it has rained, there is excessive grass. And the first few fires we have seen of the season in the last few days have been grass fires in Fresno County, Kern County, and in Ventura County. We are seeing exactly that. The governor last year asked all Californians to cut 25% in their water use. They responded. They responded because 39 million individual Californians took steps to do it. That's what we are asking today with fire, is that everybody do the defensible space, have a plan, and what we learned the hard way last year is that if a fire professional advises you to evacuate, you need to take that advice immediately and act on it. And one last thing, we are working in California and leading the state and the nation in really responding to greenhouse gas emissions. Fire prevention is preventing emissions. The Rim fire in 2013 had enough carbon emissions that equal the emissions of 2.3 million cars in California in a year. It's not just safety, it's not just managing the land environment, it is really our planet's climate really depends on us taking the steps to prevent fire in California. And with that, I would like to introduce the person that has really set the tone, has made sure we have the money to fight fires across California all the time, Governor Jerry Brown.
Thank you, John. We're here today to wake people up, send the message out that fires happen, big fires happen, that catastrophe and emergencies and things that you don't expect are real. The big issue here is you don't know when they're going to happen. But you know when it gets hotter, they're more likely to happen. So we try in every way we can to send a message. Build defensible space around your house. Do what you need to. Investigate, look on the internet, find what you need to do, but don't be complacent. The fact that things are okay today doesn't mean you can't have a big fire tomorrow or in a week or in a month or in several months. These are the personnel and the equipment that go out there and fight it. We also try to do things in advance, as you've heard, to try to make things more safer and less susceptible to all these forest fires. But weather is unpredictable with the changing of the climate and primarily with the number of people in California. For 10,000 years, there was only a few 100,000 people living here, and their living was very mobile and simple. Now you have 39 million people with structures and equipment, and they're all over the place, and they don't move that much. So we have to take account of that and adjust the best way we can. So that's why we're here. It's an important day. There's lots of things going on in the legislature in Washington, but what's going on in California is that the weather is getting warmer, things are dry, and you have to take steps, you yourself, as well as the officials and the government, to do its part to protect people, their safety, the vegetation, and the well-being of everything in California. Thank you.
That concludes the formal presentations in the press conference.